this particular time, what I would really like to do first is just call this meeting to order. And, you know, I'm one of those Baptist deacons. So one of the things that we normally do before we get started, we inject God into our program. And so at this particular time, we're going to ask you to bear with us and let us have prayer. Okay? Eternal God, our Father, as we come this morning, we come first saying thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to be here. And another thing, oh gracious Master, thank you for bringing individuals together to ask questions and to express themselves on things that they would like to see us do as state representatives and state senators. And we ask, oh gracious Master, that you help us to make Mississippi a better place to live. We look out for our children, and we know that the early exposure of the child can determine how far the child will go in life. And we ask you to help us to remember those things and help us to prepare them for a better, a lifelong living experience. These and all blessings. We thank you for the individuals that have come. We thank you for Senator Wiggins, and we thank you for those that are coming. And we ask you to order our steps in your word. These and all blessings we ask in Jesus' name. For his sake. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Now, I think all of you have gotten an agenda, and on the agenda that says call to order, then an overview of what we're to be talking about. And in that overview, as my name is Albert Butler, and I chair the Investigators Service Committee, and DHS has been one of the agencies that I have been dealing with the child care providers. And in doing so, what I looked at some things that we might could clear up and better strengthen the state agency and also provide a more wholesome relationship with the child care providers, the community, and our representatives and senators. So in so doing, we have Senator Wiggins here that will be answering some questions and telling us about the educational bills in reference to the Senate perspective. And also enlightening you on his views. And I have to say that he has taken on the task. And many times you ask individuals to come and express themselves like they express themselves in the Senate. They can do those things there, but when it comes to talking to the public, it's a different thing. And I also want him to be aware of the issues that you have, so that, like me, when decisions have to be made, he can make decisions as a result of having looked in the face of individuals that have problems and how those problems can best be resolved. So we want to thank him for being here to be with us today, okay? And all of you, many of you might know Senator Jordan, and Senator Jordan told me to let you know that he would have been here, but one of the things, he had another engagement, and because of that, he could not be here today. Mississippi Low-Income Child Care Initiative and PreK is one of the things that we're concerned about. And we're also concerned about our children from 6 months to 3 years. What happens in that period of time? And what are some of the things that we need to do to prepare them for kindergarten and for a lifelong learning experience? And how do we go about doing that? Those would be some of the things, some of the issues. Another thing too, we have a presentation by Senator Wiggins. After the presentation, we have and I do want you to understand that everything has to be time driven. So we have a 15-minute question and answer session. And after that, if Representative Baker has arrived, we will allow him to talk, and we also have a 15-minute question and answer session after that. Then, hopefully, and Mr. Lloyd Stewart might be over at the Capitol now because the House is still in session and observing the things that they're going over this morning. We do have Ms. Debbie Ellis here, and I think all of you know her because she represents. She's the chairman of the Mississippi Association of Licensed Child Care Providers. Yes. And she and I have had extensive conversations on some of the things that they would like for us to look at. And Kara Burnett is here, and we will allow her some time to talk along with Cassandra Welch and Ms. Boykin. Jane Boykin, I think all of you know her. She's worked for the state before, and I told her on yesterday, I said, Ms. Boykin, we're gonna allow you 10 minutes to just express yourself. and we're going to do just that, okay? So, from there, we're gonna ask Senator Wiggins to proceed and talking about the PreK collaboration and go from there. He did pass out some flyers, things this thing, so have your way. So,
well, thank you. Is it okay if I sit right here?
It's okay if you sit there.
Okay.
If you have a problem hearing, can you come up a little closer? Okay.
I'll talk loud enough. Okay. I'll do that. Thank you all very much for having me here, and I want to thank Senator Butler for inviting me. And I can tell you, Senator Butler, when I arrived at the Senate last year, he was one of the first people to come and greet me, and he's been a great senator and someone who I can talk to and rely on. So thank you for inviting me here on that. I kind of want, I enjoy coming and speaking, and Senator Butler, actually, when we were debating the bill on the floor of the Senate, he said, would you be willing to come and speak to people about this? And I said, 100%. I said, you name the time and place and I'll be there. And this is a passion of mine. But before I kind of get into that, I just kind of want to do a little bit, kind of take us where we can open our minds a little bit. And we all kind of walk into different situations, and we all have our own ideas and things. And we in the Senate, think about in Mississippi, and I've learned this in the Senate, that I'm from the coast. The coast is so much different from Corinth or North Mississippi. Jackson is different from Hattiesburg. And when we in the legislature are making decisions, we look at it, we have to look at it as what is good for the whole state. And so, I've had to do that. When I've come, I have certain things from my own district, but we're state lawmakers. And so we have to look at things from a statewide perspective. And, that's what our founders set up our state and our country. The legislature, I think, is a great place, but it's a great place. It's a compromise. Look, if everybody got what they wanted, something wouldn't be going right. The old joke around the Capitol, and I'm sure, and I've worked in the courthouses, is if everybody's if both sides are mad at you, then you got something, you got a good bill, because that's how our founders set up. And from a practical standpoint, we have to look at that, and what may be good for Pascagoula may not be good for Corinth, and what may be good for Vicksburg may not be good for for Madison. So we have to look at it. So I ask you, when we're kind of talking about the bill and when we're doing this, to kind of think about where we put yourselves in the lawmaker's position as to what we have to look on a statewide basis. And so y'all know, in talking to early education, just to give you a little bit of my background, I'm a lawyer by trade. Some say recovering lawyer. I do have my own private practice. After I grew up in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and of course that's where Ingalls Shipyard and Chevron and all that is, down on the coast. Long ties to Mississippi, but I went to college and then law school, and I practiced law in a private firm, and then I honestly felt like I wanted to get into the public sector, and I became the youth court prosecutor in Jackson County, Mississippi. And y'all probably know, as a youth court prosecutor, you not only prosecute delinquent cases, but you also prosecute abuse and neglect cases. You also prosecute, you handle CHIN cases, children in needs of supervision. You handle the DHS. You do, you do custody hearings. You do that. So I did that for a year, and it was great, and saw a lot there. And then the next year, a good friend of mine, he ran and became the district attorney for Jackson, Georgia, and Greene County. So I went with him and spent 8 years as assistant district attorney. And when I first went there, I handled and prosecuted the child abuse cases, child sex offense cases, and literally some of the hardest cases that I ever handled were those cases. And when I see, I remember one distinctly that I tried in George County where we sent the grandfather to prison for molesting his 10-year-old granddaughter. And those, if you don't think those don't leave something with you, they do. Did that, but I also prosecuted all felonies, murders, burglaries, property crimes, those kind of things, and drug cases, drugs. I told people that of our caseload, and Jackson County had one of the highest in the state. 85% of those cases are connected to drugs. But the ones that left, there's a couple cases that kind of stick with you, and I got tired. The ones that stuck with me were the ones where I sent 16-year-old boys to Parchman for 15 years for armed robbery or for assault. And one of the last cases I tried when I was there was a murder case where grandparents came down. They were coming to a football game to go to Moss Point. They stopped off for directions. They were going to Pascagoula. They stopped off in Moss Point for directions, simply to ask questions about where to go. And 4, 5 boys under the age of 18 stopped, robbed, ended up killing the grandparent, ended up killing the guy. And the shooter was a 16-year-old boy, and the jury convicted him. And so now there were 4 different trials, so 4 boys under the age of 18 going to prison for the rest of their lives. And what I saw in my 8 years, was these kids who didn't have an education, who didn't finish school, and who didn't have an idea in their lives. My job as prosecutor was to represent the state of Mississippi and to prosecute. But I also had, in that position you have a lot of flexibility, and so you make decisions. But the bottom line is, in that particular case, they took a life and they had to go to prison. But I got tired of being in that situation, that these kids end up in that place. And one consistent factor is the education and the things that they have to face. Now, on that, while I was in the DA's office, I have 2 kids, 10-year-old and a 10-year-old now boy and a 7-year-old daughter. And when I started in the DA's office, I guess my son was 1 year old. So getting there. And my daughter, her first year of her life was spent in a pack and play after Hurricane Katrina, because we did that. So she's the free spirit of that. But they went to, my wife works, and they went to First Baptist Child Care there throughout their schooling. I did a lot in the community, and I got involved with the Excel by 5 program and became the founding chairman of Excel by 5. Now, Excel by 5, I think y'all know, Chevron is there, so it was a pilot program of that. And we were successful in creating the Excel by 5 program, and the bottom line of all that was the child care, how important the child care center is in the curriculum. But from experience, I also know how important it is, because after Hurricane Katrina, all the child care centers were wiped out. And one thing that Chevron did, to their credit, was they worked to get the child care centers back up and running. And my wife couldn't go to work, I couldn't really go to work, and people couldn't go to work because there was nobody to take care of their children. And it illustrated it put a importance factor on where we are on that. So, you know, we saw that. And so I've worked, and in fact, Monday, my wife is getting the Parent of the Year at our kids' school at Cherokee Elementary. So we've been involved in education and early education for a while. But even beyond that, through the Excel by 5 and conscious discipline and other things, I've understood, or I've gotten to understand the importance of getting to a child at the beginning. I've read books, I've done that. The bottom line is children learn the most and the brightest when they're 0 to 5. Part of the system is we spend too much money on the back end when children, when in a sense, it's kind of a lost cause, so to speak. We need to have the maximum return on our investment, which is at the beginning. I heard one thank you, appreciate that. And I have one, and the statistics are out there, and you hear this, that, and it rings true to me, is that the actuaries and the statisticians, they determine how many prison beds based on where kids are in 3rd grade. And Dr. Bounds has said that, and you know, I say that to say, I see it, I'm looking at a big picture, and I'm trying to look at a big picture. And the bill that has come forward through the Senate is modeled after a lot of the things that we did in their experience, but it's also based on things that have been successful in other states. And the idea, the overall picture behind the Senate version is, let's get people involved in the early education of our children. And I'm also talking about, I want the Chevrons, I want the Ingalls of the world to go and invest in the Delta, in Jackson, in those places. And look, I've heard it in the legislature. Oh, you're from Jackson County. Y'all have Chevron, and you have Ingalls, and y'all have all that. And I said, well, yeah, but you know what? We've done some of those things, but I can tell you that corporations like that and people like that are willing to help out, but we've got to get them to, and I want them to go to the Delta and to go to Jackson and to go to the places that may not, quote, have as many things as, say, Jackson County does. And that's what this bill is trying and attempting to do. And when we announced it, we had the press conference of all these corporations behind us. I've heard for the longest time we need an educated workforce. We had Ingalls Shipbuilding came up and did a presentation. I don't know if you were there, to a number of the senators. And Senator Willie Simmons was there. Senator John Horn was there. And Ingalls is the largest private employer in the state of Mississippi. They need people. They need workers. But their They did a job fair, and literally, I think they said 10,000 people came out to the job fair, but only 900 could be hired because they could not get past the application process, because they couldn't read, they couldn't get past it, and they couldn't pass a drug test. Okay? And our companies are screaming for educated workforce. And that's why we're doing what we need to be doing, is to get, if we're gonna get out of the bottom, and if we're not gonna be 50th, we've gotta do things differently, and we all gotta get on the same page. Let me say this, we all need to reach and cooperate so we can get to the same goal that we all wanna get there. So with that as a background, what the bill does, and since the bill came out, I've actually thought, man, you know, it's kind of hard to explain it. So we're gonna try it this way. Does anybody have a charm bracelet on in here? Anybody wearing a charm bracelet? Okay, I see a charm bracelet. Think of the collaborative model as a charm bracelet. You have the clasp, okay, and you have the clasp, which is required to make the circle. But you can add charms onto that depending on how you want to do it, and who you want, and what you want to recommend, and what you want to see. Well, this is what the collaborative model under the bill does. The clasp is the public school district, okay, and or a nonprofit. Those two, the public school district, and if it exists, a Head Start. Okay, that's your clasp. You have to have those in order to get that. But you can add charms to your collaborative. You can add, you know, ABC Child Care Center. You can add 123 car dealership. You can add the Pascagoula Public Health Center. You can add the Baco McCarty Foundation to that class, and so you can create this charm bracelet, and everybody is classed together, working together. And if you get tired of Estabrook Toyota, they can pull out and you can replace them with somebody else. Okay, so using that as an example, that's what this bill is doing. And to kind of give you, when I was on the Excel by 5 in Pascagoula, that's what we did, was we brought in the Baco McCarty Foundation. We brought in the Pascagoula School District. With the Pascagoula School District was the clasp, and the Baco McCarty Foundation was the nonprofit. Those were the clasps. And then we had Estabrook Toyota, we had Chevron, we had the District Attorney's Office, we had Head Start. I guess I should back up. We had the Pascagoula School District, and we had Head Start as the clasp. Okay, and then we added all those others as the charms on there. And then we would work together, and everybody brought something different to the table. Which we also had the parochial school there. We had that. So that's the idea. And the Chevrons of the world, you know, and the Baco McCarty Foundations brought funds that would be run through the public school district. Okay, so that's the collaborative model, and that's how kind of the idea. And under the Senate bill, you know, and I'm not going to try to get into the weeds too much. I'm happy to answer questions, but what the bill says is, let me back up. So in addition to the collaborative model, what the overall picture of the bill is saying, we, the state of Mississippi, we are prioritizing early education in the state of Mississippi for the first time in forever. We, the legislature, and we are writing it into documents that we will fund it at a certain level of state dollars. But we want to incentivize all these different groups and people to invest in early care and invest in the children. And by the way, nobody's requiring it. You don't have to do it. So we want you to invest, and when I say you, I'm talking about, you know, Mama Jean down the street, I'm talking about, you know, ABC car dealership down there. I'm talking about the Viking corporations of the world. I'm talking about all those to come in and to invest in early education. And under the bill, these collaboratives under the first phase is the Department of Education, when they accept them, they have to set them up in different places throughout the state, not just on the coast and not just in Jackson, not just someplace else. The idea is to spread this and have it take hold. What the bill did also, and y'all know, is that going on in the state of Mississippi is there are, like y'all, child care providers, but there's also, in addition to Excel by 5, there's Building Blocks, there's the Gilmore Foundation, there's you know, there's Spark, I'm telling you, there's probably stuff going on that I don't have any, that I don't even know. But what we do know is that this is going on in the state, and we want to take what's going on and expand on it. But what we also know is what's going on in one place is not what's going on in another place. The standards that are being done, and it goes on in, I'll take Pascagoula as an example. What one child care center is doing there, they may be teaching a curriculum, but the other child care center's not. And in Pascagoula, for example, the child care centers all feed into the one public school district. So you have children who come from like the First Baptist, which by the way no longer exists, where my children went to, from First Baptist, who may be getting a good one, but you have somebody else from another child care center in Pascagoula, because they don't have the funds, they don't have the ability, for whatever reason, they're coming in and it's a different level. What we wanted to do with the bill is take what's out there and say we need to raise the standards, or I'm sorry, we need to do a common standard across, but of a high level. And this bill, through what we put in the bill, gives us the highest rating from the National Institute of Early Education. Is that right, Rachel? Rachel Cantor from Mississippi First is here, and she's the policy person who helps me on all this. And they do a great job. So that's the idea, is to have standards throughout. And so, for example, let's say, and I'm looking long term, this isn't a short term, but somebody who goes to a child care place through the collaborative in Greenwood and Ingalls wants to hire them, they know that they have a high level, somebody coming from Greenwood is going to be a high level to take on and be a worker. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is that yes, and I know we're going to talk about the QRS and all that. I understand. I know there's issues out there. I get it. Okay, I'm on the board at my church that runs a child care center that hasn't reached 3 yet. Okay, I get it. There's ones out there. Okay, the bottom line is, let me back up. And I understand. Within the early education child care center world, we want people who are trained in early education. We want people who know what to do. The problem is they don't get paid much. The private child care centers can't afford to pay them, and so you have this huge turnover that goes on, and the children have different teachers all the time, and we want to raise it. What we did in Pascagoula, and to be certified as an Excel by 5 community, 40% of your child care centers their workers have to have CDAs, okay? And we spent a lot of time trying to get them to do CDAs. Okay, bottom line being is we're trying to raise the standard. We're trying to create a foundation of high-level teachers so that they can stay in that profession, so that the children can work. So that it'll work for the children. Okay, so what we've done under the bill is taken these standards and said this is what you're going to need to do to be a child care teacher and a child care and have it and have those. The money that will come down, that money can be used to train teachers, to train what you need to do, to purchase things, to do that. There is a matching fund. The money to receive the state money, there is a 1-to-1 matching. Okay, here's how I see things working, and is that if you get, say you get ABC nonprofit foundation that specializes in early education, or you have a local foundation, they put in money. That money can be used to offset the matching, or to go towards the matching to get the state money. That money can be used to pay for the teachers. Let's say one school district wants to donate a building to house the early child care center. That donation of that building can go to serve as the matching for that money. And which, by the way, all of this is being run through the State Department of Education. Okay, they have the, under the bill, they have to look at it and make those decisions and make a determination. It's a phase-in program, first, second, and third phase. Okay, the first phase, what we wanted to do was build on and reward that's going on right now. Okay, we want to build on that. The second phase, the idea behind that is that, hey, they're doing it, and these people who are kind of already in a place, they can tell other communities and collaboratives, this is what needs to happen, we'll help you, this is what we can do. We'll get you ready for the second phase, so when the second phase rolls around, you can get that. And by the way, the second phase is mandated to cover 7,500 children, and the third phase then goes up to, I think, 15,000 children. Okay, so the third phase, so over a maximum of a 15-year period, we're addressing 15,000 children in the state of Mississippi with state money behind it. Okay, and after each phase, the State Department of Education makes a determination if the program's working, and if it's not working, then why. And they can choose to go on to the next phase, or they can choose it's not working and we not do it. Okay, so my belief is once it gets started, I think it'll kind of have a snowball effect, and we'll be having that. So that's the idea behind this implementation. And Rachel can tell you, okay, I did not want a grant. Okay, me personally, I'm tired of hearing about grants and it's a one-time thing and we're going to do this. I wanted this to take place and to take root, and that's why we did this phase-in program. And written under the bill, based on the calculations and the national standards, every child is funded at, or the number is a total of $4,000 per child in early education. 2,100 of that comes from the state, and then it can be used for the matching funds. Okay, so that's kind of how the funds work. As far as the QRIS, that's out there. I have since obviously heard the issues with it. The bottom line is this: there needs to be, what we as the state lawmakers, and if we're dealing with state money, we want to ensure that money is going to places that are of a high quality and a good place. Not to say that people aren't. That the bottom line is that as a stewards of taxpayer money, we have to ensure that happens, and that's why that was there. And I've heard different talks. I've had discussions with other people of what can be done. You know, we'll look at that. The bottom line is there has to be something that is of a nature of high quality. So that's kind of the overview, and I've talked a lot, I know, but I'm happy to answer questions on anything. And I think this is, by the way, we've got national press over Mississippi taking a stand. Y'all also heard President Obama talk about early education. Honestly, when this bill came out, I had no idea that President Obama was going to talk about that. This is the time, and this is right for early education. And I'll be honest with you, me personally, I think Albert can talk about this. You know, I'm a Republican, have to fight off the far right of there who think all type of government money into education is bad. Well, I don't agree with that. I think we got to be smart about it, okay? And you have other people that are saying this, but this is a chance that hasn't come in Mississippi in forever, and we're finally. And the other thing is, we're 50th, okay? And there's reasons for that. There can be reasons for that, but we gotta pull ourselves out, and we gotta do those things, and we need to do things, and early education is one of those things that can get us to raise us out of the bottom. So I'm probably taking up Toby Barker's time, but so I'll shut up and then answer any questions.
Well, but before we go to the question part, I want to say this, and that is that, you know, as you can see, Senator Wiggins has a broad amount of exposure and experience with children. Another thing I want to also let you know that I taught in the public school system for over 20 years. And, you know, I experienced having children coming to me that could not read, could not write, and coming from the elementary schools where they had just been passed on. I too, like Senator Wiggins, agree that our emphasis should be more on the bottom level. When I say on the bottom level, the early childhood development. And you know, we notice children now, when they get to be 12th grade, they should know what direction they're going in. We should have a program structured in such a way that they should know whether they're going into the skill area or whether they're going into the liberal arts area. But we don't have those things now. And it has to start somewhere. And today what we're trying to do is make a start by really evaluating where we are and asking questions and allowing some of these things to come out. Okay? And I also have down here, I know all of you have different reasons for being here, but I think I can conclude that all of it is about the child. So when we leave here, we should be enlightened on some things that we can do collectively to improve the conditions for the child. Upon that, we'll allow now for some questions and answers.
Yes. Hi, I'm Rachel Cantor, and I help.
Rachel, you want to come to?
Sure.
You can take it out.
I'm Rachel Cantor. I help Senator Wiggins with the bill. And I'm going to leave some cards because very unfortunately I have to drive to Greenville to be there this afternoon, so I'm going to have to leave in like 10 minutes. But I want to clarify some misunderstandings that have been reported in the media about the bill. Let me start with the local match. A lot of people seem to believe that the local match needs to be brand new money. It does not have to be brand new money. As we all know, there are about 85% of children already in some type of program, whether that's Head Start, child care, public schools. There is money being spent on those children now. All those sources of funding are named in the bill and can be used for local match. So really how you should think about this is that it's state money for quality improvements that can match the money you're already spending now, whether that is parent tuition, child care certificates, Title I dollars, Head Start money, whatever. So, the only time that you have to have new local money for new local match is if you're going to serve extra children who are already not in a program somewhere. We wish that there could be more state money, but we had a hard time selling folks on $8 million. And that, as you might have noticed from the House bill put even less money towards it. So that is one thing that we're really fighting on. But bear in mind that if you're already spending money on children in a program, that is money that can count towards local match because the state money can help you meet those standards as long as you agree to meet those standards. The second thing I want to say is that there's been a conversation about placing kids in programs. This bill does not say anything about placing kids in programs. It's a voluntary program for providers and for children. Parents don't have to participate, providers don't have to participate. No one is going to place a child anywhere. If a provider agrees to participate in the program, parents can choose from the programs that are participating where to put their child, whether that's a child care center or a Head Start center or a public school. The program under the bill allows for half-day programs and full-day programs. If you have a full-day program at a child care center, that would be awesome for working parents because, as you know, working parents need full-day, full-year care. And whether it's a half-day or a full-day program at a child care center, the child just stays there after the program is over, and you continue to operate like normal. So the way the bill was written is so that you can integrate the pre-K program into your normal course of business, especially if you're a child care center. Public schools, which might have half-day programs, if they want to move to a full-day program, would have to serve more hours. The other thing I want to point out is that in other states, what we have seen with collaboration is that it's been a huge benefit for child care centers, because the additional state funds which allow for quality improvements have enabled child care centers to be able to pay staff better, which has decreased their turnover. They've enabled staff to have access to more resources. They've enabled staff to fill their enrollments and keep their enrollments full so that they don't lose children, because parents will choose to send their child to a center that participates in the state program. When we looked at this nationwide, one of the big things we wanted to do was say, how can we make sure that child care, Head Start, and public schools all participate so this doesn't cut anybody out? And collaboration was the way to do that. And nationally, there are about 30% of children in state-funded programs that are not in public school. They are outside in community-based centers or Head Start or something else. I wish that I didn't have to leave, because I'm sure there will be more questions that will be asked.
I'll send them to you, Rachel.
I will leave my cards on the table so that if you want to email me or call me. But we are willing to listen and to work, but please be aware that, you know, there's a push and a pull, and we've got to make sure that whatever we do, we don't push someone else out of the center so that the coalition falls apart. Because as Senator Wiggins said, you know, there are Republicans who don't want to vote for this on one side. And then if we've got the child care advocates and Head Start advocates and public school advocates over here who can't get on the same page, it's going to fall apart and nobody's going to get money. That could be a huge benefit for children in this state. And we don't know when this opportunity will come around again. So please just bear that in mind. We're willing to listen, but remember that if you don't like something about the bill, you need to suggest a good alternative, because legislators deal in alternatives. They will not deal in just, you know, we don't like it, but we don't have a suggestion. So please just keep that in mind.
Okay, Rachel, I would like to say this. Now, one of the things that we are going to do, we'll have another opportunity to bring Rachel back before us. But now you've heard what the bill is all about. You have an opportunity to collaborate on that and collectively structure some questions that you need to know to capture these resources that we are talking about. Yes, ma'am.
I just want the names of the collaborations that we keep hearing, we're going, you know, these work well, no.
The state, Rachel, the state, Oklahoma.
So, West Virginia has a state law that requires 50% of all state-funded pre-K children to